What is up, and welcome to another edition of the Mile High Hoops podcast. As always, I am your host, Zach Bai, and as always, I appreciate you spending a sliver of your busy day with me right here on the podcast, reacting to this and that. Most recently, a Nuggets win over the Cleveland Cavaliers on Sunday. Prior to that, and since the last time we spoke, really looking ahead to that Minnesota game on Friday night, and both of these games, holy moly, they were a tale of two different games, almost unrecognizable to put them back to back. Let's talk about the Minnesota game first on Friday night. That's what happened first. I'm not going to spend too much time on either game as we're sitting here on Tuesday and looking ahead to a matchup with the San Antonio Spurs, and then just looking at the team big picture. That's more what today is going to be about. But real quick, man, Friday night was hard to ignore, you guys. That was hard to ignore against Minnesota in one of the most memorable, for the wrong reasons, hapless game that the Nuggets have played with stakes. Okay, with stakes. We've seen them play hapless regular season games, and you scratch your head, you're like, that was a terrible waste of my time. Those guys didn't look like they wanted to be out there, and that just happens over the course of an NBA season, regardless of which team you're talking about. But Friday evening against Minnesota, there was stakes, right? It was the number one seed sort of hanging in the balance, and Denver had a real opportunity to put a vice grip on that thing with a win over Minnesota in Denver. And it did not go according to plan. I mean, holy smokes. The Denver Nuggets, just with the eye test, all right, not even looking at stats, okay, just with the eye test, they looked like an AAU team that was playing their third game of the day against a team that had yet to play. And the Nuggets looked physically cooked, where their bodies did not cooperate with what their brain or even their spirit was asking them to do. And they didn't just lose. They got absolutely mollywopped. And you can't even look at the final score. Final score says they lose by 13 points. They were down by twice that during the game. They were trailing by 26 points at one point in that contest. And it's not any reason to freak out, but I also don't want to act like it didn't happen. And, it was on a night where, Anthony Edwards doesn't even shoot 50% and went 0 for 8 from three. Naz Reid, who has been shooting the piss out of the basketball, shot 2 for 12 and 0 of 5 from three. Guys, since Karl Anthony Towns went down, Naz Reid is shooting 40% from three and averaging over 18 points a game on 50% shooting, but 40% from three. So, they were down 26 points against a team that went 9 of 28 from three. And you know what? I was getting flashbacks to what series was it? I think it was the Golden State series when I think it was in the second round, and the Nuggets just didn't have anything in the tank. It was when Jamal was hurt, and it was just like, oh my God, they're going to have to play the rest of this series, but it's over, and it was just mathematical. Or academic to finish the series. That's what Friday night felt like. Now they turn around and they win big on Sunday against Cleveland, who has come back down to earth a little bit considering some of their peak points earlier in the season. But I don't think we can say, because we came in here and recorded on Thursday on the heels of the loss on national television against Phoenix. And we were like, up here, rematch. And, Phoenix had just came into Denver and won without Devin Booker just 2-3 weeks before. It was like, okay, getting up for this game. They didn't. It looked uninspired. And then you're back on, I forget if it was even national television or not, on Friday against Minnesota. And it was like, okay, rivalry game, check, right? The team president, Tim Connolly, who built this Nuggets team, built that team to beat you. Chris Finch, coach of Timberwolves, used to be on the Denver Nuggets staff. Recent playoff history, check. Going back to 2018, game 82. This is long-standing here. And I don't think we can say, well, the Phoenix game doesn't matter. They weren't up for it. this is really what matters. This is the most important game of the year. And then when they come out and get absolutely freaking whacked, can we also say that doesn't matter either? Like, at what point does it matter? And maybe you're telling me that none of it matters. They just need to get into the playoffs, which I may co-sign that, okay? Because this team, the Nugget, and I've been talking about this for a few days here on the radio show, The Drive, from 2 to 6 on The Fan here in Denver, is that Michael Malone and this organization need to make a choice. Are you going for the number one seed? Or are you trying to get completely healthy? Because you're saying both things, but both of those things don't often share the same space, right? Jamal, still haven't seen him. You know, I thought this was a 1 or 2 game thing. You know, Jamal Murray hasn't played in, what are we going on, 2 weeks now? It went from ankle to knee. He's dealing with shin splints, has missed a month with a hamstring. You know, we have not seen Jamal Murray since March 21st. It's April 2nd here. So, and there's just 7 games left in the season. So does Jamal come back? You know, I'm assuming he will. I'm assuming some of this is precautionary. But you're having guys having to play above their roles to try to win some games to finish with the 1 seed, and you're exerting so much energy in doing so, it feels like a disjointed finish, right? You guys know this as well as I do. This is not last year. This is not coast time. This is not time to put it in cruise control as you cross the finish line because the number 1 seed's locked up. It's not, right? So, I mean, watching what I watched on Friday night, it just reminded me none of this matters if this team is not healthy. None of it matters. Number 1 seed doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if the team's not healthy. And there's no margin for error with the starting group because your bench is so unreliable. Now, some days they're going to show up, some days that they're not. But you don't feel comfortable with that, right? And on the majority, you look at the whole season, it's been lackluster. So if even just one thing isn't right from a health standpoint when we start these playoffs, and by the way, the playoffs start, I think it's April 20th, that's in 18 days. So if this group isn't right from a health standpoint, they can get beat. They can get beat, you guys. I'm here to tell you. Do I think that's going to happen? No, because I think they're going to make the right choices, and I think Jamal is going to come back, and it's going to be the full assembly of talent once we get started in the first round. But let me get morbid for a second. And if you only like to hear good news and only want to hear a 10-day forecast of sunshine and rainbows, then maybe turn this off right now. Okay? But I'm telling you, if this team is let's just say Jamal, for some reason, he has some sort of setback. Would that be unthinkable? No, because we're living in that right now. If this team matches up with the Dallas Mavericks in the first round, which could happen, all right? Not saying it's going to happen. It could happen. With 7 games left, they're in the 5 seed. They're a half game removed from the 6 seed, okay? If Denver, for some reason, winds up in a 3-6 matchup, let's just say, I'm just totally making it up. Don't get carried away because the time you're hearing this, the game with San Antonio may have already happened, and maybe Dallas doesn't lose another game because they're 9-1 in their last 10, and at the time of recording, they've won 7 in a row. All right, they're playing really well, and they look kind of scary. They just beat Denver within the last 2 weeks on a Sunday on national TV, which I'm sure you remember. It's the Kyrie hook shot, blah, blah, blah. If Jamal Murray's not ready for that first-round series, and let's just say they intersect with Dallas, Denver could get bounced in the first round. I know it seems unthinkable. I know that. And if they're healthy, again, don't misunderstand me. I think this team's going to go win a championship. I really do. I mean, I'm wearing the shirt that I wore at the parade a year ago. This team, if healthy, I believe is going to win the championship. And I've bet them with my money over and over again throughout this season. But if they're not, to think that they couldn't get beat in the first round if they matched up with Dallas and they're not healthy is naive, okay? And 1 year ago, right around this time, it would have seemed absurd and idiotic to suggest that the reigning Stanley Cup champions could get beat in the first round as well. When the Avs won the championship in 2022, it was not when the next one, it was just how many. How many cups would one be a failure? I mean, those were real segments that we were doing. And rooted in substance because the core looked like much like you would look at Denver Nuggets, right? And they get in the first round. they get a matchup that's not so favorable, and they're missing a valuable member of their team in Val Nichushkin. And could I see that happening in this world, that you could go to the playoffs and you're not whole for whatever reason, health-wise, but especially Jamal, and it's a matchup like Dallas? It seems insane, but it's really not that crazy. And I'm not saying this to be a fearmonger or have doubt. I want to look at this from all angles, even one that may not be friendly, right? But this is where we're at. We're at 7 games left, and we haven't seen Jamal since, the third week of March. That's not good. So, and then Jokic's been dealing with a back. Aaron Gordon looks like he's worn down. So, again, not panicking, but I want to paint. I want the whole view of this thing. I want the whole view of and the range of outcomes. Best case scenario, we know Denver can go win a championship, right? And I still have my money there. Worst case scenario, it's probably what I just described. They have got to be healthy. They don't have the margin of error they did a year ago. Right? A year ago, Bruce Brown just slides up, and he was finishing 1/3 of the playoff games anyway. It's not like that. It's not like that this year. From a competition standpoint, what's waiting in the West and your own arsenal. Okay. All right. Looking at the game against Cleveland, thank goodness that happened. It wasn't just a win. It was a rare 29-point win. It's hard. You don't see the Denver Nuggets beat teams by 29 points too often. And it was one of these games where Jokic just said, I'm not going to let us lose. It was a vintage performance, 26 points, 18 rebounds, 16 assists, 1 steal. If there was any doubt, plus 37, by the way, when he was on the floor in 35 minutes, the Denver Nuggets outscored the Cavs by 37 points. I don't think he needed a nail in the coffin, but I think he delivered it anyway for the MVP conversation. Even though there's still dissenting opinions out there, and SGA hit a game winner in New York and a really fun game, and I know all that, Jokic is going to win this award. And then to bring up another hockey thing, I think McKinnon's going to win the Hart Trophy. All right, and I think that's about locked up with 8 games left in the Avs season. And the Nuggets and the Avs could have double MVPs. It would be the first time that an American city would have an MVP in the NBA and an MVP in the NHL since the 1988-89 season in Los Angeles, California, when Wayne Gretzky was the Kings MVP, the Hart Trophy winner in the NHL, and Magic Johnson was the MVP and for the Los Angeles Lakers. That's how long ago it was. It never happens. I believe it's going to happen this year in Denver sports, and Sunday was the exclamation point on that. KCP was brilliant, 6 of 9 from 3. Are you kidding me? Just fantastic. I thought Christian Brown, great bounce back performance for CB coming off the bench. 10 points, 6 rebounds. Had the highlight when the Jokic tip out for 3. We've seen that 40, 45 times in Jokic's career. Add that to the list. He had the around the back with the English to KCP. Jokic talking about. So that was a bit of Listerine to get some of the bad taste in our mouth from the Minnesota game. And then let's just look ahead before we get out of here. San Antonio on Tuesday night, all right, March 2nd. And then moving forward here, guys, April 2nd. Moving forward, you got the Clippers in 2 nights in Los Angeles. And then you have a day off. Then you play Saturday at home against Atlanta. And then you have Sunday and Monday off. Then they'll play at Utah, all right, who's trying really hard to lose. Then Wednesday, you're going to turn around, second night of a back-to-back, and host Minnesota again. Okay, so that still has potential to be a needle mover in the Western Conference standings because it's all jumbled up there. And then finally, the last 2 games of the year, it's almost like exhibition games, finishing against the Spurs and then finishing against Memphis, both teams that are not very good. So the schedule sets up favorably for Denver right now. Nuggets are a half game back of Oklahoma City at the time of recording on Tuesday afternoon. And then a half game behind Denver is Minnesota. So OKC in the 1 seed, Denver in the 2 seed, Minnesota in the 3 seed. After the Timberwolves dropped a game against the Bulls that they should not have lost after winning 4 straight. So just a handful of games left. That's it. And then we hit reset. We take the hourglass. We turn it back over, and it all gets wiped away. And all these episodes of the Mile High Hoops podcast, we just sort of like an Etch-a-Sketch, shake them, new marathon. We're on the doorstep of this. All right. So we shall see what we are in store for, and whatever happens later this evening on Tuesday night at home against San Antonio. We'll be back on Thursday talking about that and looking ahead right here on the Mile High